So I'm Max Vast. I'm the president of AFSCME 3800. So we represent clerical, technical, and healthcare workers here at the University of Minnesota. We've got about 2,500 workers that we represent. I'm also a longtime Palestine activist. I've been in this movement for about 20 years, almost 20 years, and the parent of a Palestinian teenager.
And so has there been any kind of messaging from the university or anyone essentially kind of threatening for any kind of retaliation for being involved in this, anything like that?
So we've seen a few things. So, of course, yesterday they arrested the Minnesota 9. So 8 of those people were students, and one of those people was our member. And they were all banned from campus. So I spent much of today figuring out how to get that person to be able to get to their office to do their job. And the end result of that is that we got the ban lifted. But we've also had people kind of on both sides of the issue in their work. So myself, I help run a staff education program in my department. We studied a unit about Palestine, and then when we put up our bulletin board about it, they censored it. So we've seen people face similar things to that. And we've also had librarians who have been told to be the censors of students and tell them to take Palestinians' activism stuff down out of the libraries. So there's all sorts of political repression that happens at the university all the time, including the Palestine movement, for sure.
And what has made you feel passionate about becoming involved in this, or what would you communicate to people that are trying to understand what these protests are about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I became passionate about it by honestly meeting Palestinians. So I spent a lot of time in the Middle East and getting to know Palestinians and getting to know their lives and their stories. I lived in Palestine for 3 years. And became very passionate about Palestinian liberation, but also it is an issue that the Israeli occupation affects every single aspect of Palestinians' lives, right? So no matter what people care about, it is connected to the Palestinian issue. It's a workers' rights issue. It's a students' issue. It's a women's issue. It's an education issue. It's an environmental issue, hardcore, right? So I think if people, look at this and they think that it's complicated or that it's so long and historical, just pick out one piece of it and find people who are doing the work on that issue, because Palestine is everything. And honestly, if we can, achieve the liberation of Palestine, we can achieve the liberation of all of us.
You mentioned that you lived in Palestine for 3 years.
Yeah.
One comment that I keep seeing come up a lot is oh yeah, if you protesters went to Palestine, why don't you try living there? And it's implying that there's no human rights. What was your experience, or is there anything that you could speak to regarding that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to school in Boston, and then I lived in Palestine, and I felt much safer in Palestine among Palestinians than I ever did in Boston. Palestinians are some of the most welcoming and hospitable people. They are so understanding, and honestly they want to hear our stories too. We want to hear their stories and they want to hear ours. The times in Palestine when I felt unsafe was when the Israeli military was around. In fact, the Israeli military shot off my finger. So that was really the only times that it really felt unsafe to be there. Palestinians are extremely safe.
What about Boston did you feel less safe?
Mostly police too, but just a lot more kind of petty crime around. Not that I felt unsafe in Boston either, but
just curious.
Yeah.
The distinction, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
And lastly, is there any closing thoughts that you might have, or any message you would want to tell to students, other places who are seeing this and on the fence about becoming involved?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say just take the first step. If you're on a college campus, this is happening everywhere across the country. So just show up at a protest. You will make friends. You will find mentors. You will find people who will want to talk to you about the movement and about the issue. So, if it's a matter of wanting to learn more, find people who are doing that work. If it's a matter of being scared to go to a protest, find a buddy. There's 500 buddies out here right now, so come on out.
Thank you.
Yeah.